everyone. So just like the whole entire world right now, I have also watched the new Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, and it definitely came with a dilemma for my business. As some of you guys may know, I am a brand and marketing person, so I regularly actually teach people social media, and it's funny because I've always kind of had an inclination that social media has not only affected me personally and my anxiety, but also just with like the businesses that I'd work with. So constantly I would get people that would come to me and say how frustrated they were with social media, how the numbers just weren't there and they were getting overwhelmed and it was just too much and they just quit altogether, which I can definitely see from a certain standpoint that it is really hard to, you know, constantly see the numbers, especially when it comes to your business, but I digress. The whole point of this video is that I know that the irony is not lost, especially on me, that I film with the intention of putting this actually on social media. And the truth is, as business owners, we need to be on social media. We need to get our businesses out there. We need to get constant growth. We need to look at different avenues. We need to build up our CRM. We need to, you know, we need to be online in a dull of the sense. And when you watch a documentary like The Social Dilemma, I'm sure you were probably just like me. I wanted to just throw my phone out into the garbage. I wanted to move out into the woods and just, you know, become a complete hermit and off the grid. But we can't do that as business owners, unfortunately. So once the initial panic and kind of everything soaked in a little bit more from The Social Dilemma, I decided to kind of make a video like this just because I know you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds all great, but what do I do about my business and how can I be more mindful in my social media? And it's extra tricky for me because I teach people social media all the time and I coach people how to use social media efficiently for their business and for their specific clientele that they're trying to get. And again, the irony isn't lost on me, but I also would always say, oh, you need to be on social media at least like 15 minutes a day to engage with your audience if you're trying to seek a certain amount of growth. You need to do X amount of posts all the time. I would constantly instruct to always be online, and it's true, the more you are online, the higher your growth rate. But I'm realizing now that sometimes that is not beneficial for our own mental health, and just from like a personal standpoint, I do really feel that we kind of do need to shift into being more mindful, especially when it comes to not only our personal social media accounts, but also our business social media accounts. So then what can we do as entrepreneurs to kind of be more mindful about social media? Number one, I would actually start with tracking how often you are actually on social media and just kind of gauge exactly how much you're on social media, especially for your business versus personal. So for example, if you find that you spent about an hour in a whole entire day's worth of work going onto social media because it's for work, and it could be cutting into time, perhaps maybe having a designated time to, like, again, 15 minutes might be more beneficial for your work. Which leads me to point number two. You're gonna want to actually set a schedule and stick to it. So I know it can be really tricky when you have people that are commenting on posts, people are asking you questions on social media. General rule of thumb when you're building a brand is you do want to be able to reply right away. Again, that's point number one of customer service, is being there for people and making sure that you're there for them. But at the same time, if you're going into every beck and call on every notification that's on your cell phone or your social media, then A, it's probably disrupting your work anyway, and B, you don't have to reply right away. So a good strategy that I have personally been implementing to try to balance it a little bit more, again, not perfect, but just something that I've been doing, is I'll actually do 15 minutes in the morning and then 15 minutes at the end of my day. And I've started to actually not reply at all in the evenings. And unfortunately, I have had, like, this is just a personal antidote, but I have had a couple people be upset that I didn't reply right away. But the way I see it is, just because our business is our business, it doesn't mean that we have to be dedicated to it 24/7, you know? And I think that's we talk about this all the time on Thriving Tides, where there needs to be a balance and a separation from our personal lives and our social media and business lives as well, right? And it's making sure that you're actually turning off, because if you're not turning off business-wise, how are you ever supposed to take care of yourself? And then it kind of snowballs, because then if you start replying to that person at 8 o'clock at night, then they start thinking that it's okay to constantly, therefore, through your whole entire relationship, to reply at 8 o'clock, which is no good for either party, because then there's resentment that builds. It's just not good for your business. And it's also really good for your mental health to have that kind of separation as well. So definitely, that's one thing I do. If your business is really focused on social media and you're really trying to do growth, maybe you increase it to 30 minutes, or maybe just in the midday you spend an hour just replying to things as well. But I find that having a morning and evening 15 minutes is all you really need. And I tell people, you don't need to be on there 24/7, you know? And I think there's that mentality that we feel like we have to. And I know I've been not the greatest in showcasing that there should be a balance when I would instruct people to spend 50 minutes every single day to engage within their business. And I do understand that I have perhaps pushed people to feel like there is more pressure on social media, but at the end of the day, as long as you're there for your clients, you're having a consistent message, consistent content, and you're really taking care of your clients, you should be okay on social media. And I know this isn't in relation to what we're talking about today, but a general rule of thumb for social media is just be a good person. Try your best. Your best is all you can do. Don't put so much pressure on yourself when it comes to social media, but that's just a little extra. So another thing that you can do, especially if you've tried social media, you're really not liking it, you still feel overwhelmed, you probably aren't really excited to work on social media elements of your business, but you do know that it's really beneficial for your business. A third option that you can do is actually hire a social media manager. And I know a few people that do social media management, and the thing is, they could be lifesavers. They enjoy doing social media, and they already have a balance set for themselves. So it's kind of nice, because then not only can you give content to them and they can set everything for you, but they're also going to be there as a support as well when it comes to social media and your online presence. And I think that could be really beneficial. And the thing is too, sometimes we put so much pressure on, okay, I need to learn this new platform that I've only been on maybe 2 times to go check family photos. Okay, well, maybe I should hire a social media manager, because learning another new thing, that's the thing with when we're business owners, we're constantly learning new technology. We're learning how to be all the things. And it's true, like, just like when I tell people, if you hire a professional and it takes something off your plate, you can go invest more time into another thing that actually fills your soul. And especially if you're not feeling any love for doing the social media, it's becoming a chore, I would definitely suggest getting a social media manager. Another great tip that I actually do advise all my clients to do all the time is actually batching content. And so when you batch content, it basically means that you're planning your whole entire, either every 2 weeks, it could be every week, you could even do it every month. depending how often you want to look at it or how much your business kind of turns over. You can actually batch your content and plan everything all in advance. So you can get all your photos together, you can get all your hashtag sets together. Facebook actually recently came out with something called Content Creator Studio, well, semi-recently. And I would actually suggest looking into just publishing everything straight through there. There's other things like Hootsuite, Planoly. There's so many different publication softwares that you can go and pre-publish your posts and kind of set it, forget it. And that way it's so much easier for you to just spend one day, a full day on just social media, get a plan. And the cool thing is too, is that's when you can also create certain campaigns. So if you're trying to obtain more customers, then perhaps you're doing a customer contest, and that's a campaign for the month of February, for example. One thing I do want to mention when it comes to batching content is you're going to want to make sure that you check that your posts are scheduled and also scheduled correctly. I have had it a couple times where for some reason, I don't know if it was just like a bug in the system, but I'd have like paragraphs duplicating, or something just didn't post, or I accidentally did AM and I meant PM for certain times as well. So always make sure to double check the day of, and I always just write like a little note that I should be expecting X post at this time. I do believe in batch contenting. I do that for the most part. And the cool thing too is you can also make sure that your tone is more consistent, your message is more consistent, the overall aesthetic is super consistent because you're actually visually seeing it as well, which I think could be really beneficial, especially for those who are just kind of posting here and there and feeling the pressure at 3 o'clock, oh shoot, I haven't posted anything and I haven't posted in a while, I have to post something, here's a picture of my dog, right? So this takes the pressure off and it has more of a targeted messaging and more of a plan to it. A thing that I do also kind of want to mention, and I do think it's really important to, again, balance social media as a business owner, is don't check your numbers right away. Especially if you are going to be checking to make sure something's posted when you've pre-published it. Don't check the numbers, because right away you can go constantly and back into that fear mindset of, oh goodness, I don't have a lot of likes right now, maybe I should just delete the post, and you kind of snowball into a bunch of sadness and, oh, imposter syndrome, why am I doing this? Nobody likes what I'm doing. Don't look at any of the numbers. At the end of the day, numbers literally don't mean shit. I'm putting it out there. They don't mean shit. I always tell people the goal of having numbers is always a great goal, and it's really good to have kind of a goal and a mindset that you're going to get to X number. But I always tell people you could have 1,000 likes, and if none of them is resonating with the one customer that could, you know, pay off your mortgage for the month, then perhaps not looking into the because again, there's bots, there's so many factors when it comes to numbers. There's people just mass liking things but not actually reading your post. What we're trying to do is build the community, build the engagement. And I firmly believe in the mantra of numbers don't mean anything. And I know it's really hard because I come from a standpoint of analytics, and it is important to always look at the analytics to see, hey, maybe this post didn't work because of X, Y, and Z, but this worked because of this, and taking, you know, the numbers into consideration. But I think it becomes detrimental when you're comparing yourself to, say, another business that's doing something similar and they're getting X amount of likes. Which brings me to my next thing, is stop comparing yourself, especially to your competitors. It will literally send you into a full-blown spiral of imposter syndrome, into you seeking even more distractions, even more gratifications, or instant gratifications. And, you know, like they kind of showed in the documentary, the constant need to get more feedback, more positive feedback, and going down that whole spiral. What I usually tell people and what I'm trying to practice myself is as soon as you recognize that you're starting to compare yourself and you're starting to dip into feeling super emotional and feeling super sad, I do suggest just walk away, turn off your social media. I'd actually turn off your whole entire business for just a second if you can, and go for a walk. Do a little bit of meditation to kind of reset your brain. Because again, we're mental beings. We think a lot, and especially as entrepreneurs, we're so focused on every single moving part that sometimes we forget about that our thoughts aren't really our thoughts in a certain way. We need to remember the abundance that's in our life and how beautiful our life is, and it doesn't matter what's happening behind a screen. And I think so much that we do get caught up in the numbers. And again, I'm one of those people, and I'm working on it myself. So I'm not trying to be accusatory if you are doing this, but I'm just saying we need to be more mindful of what we're starting to think, especially about ourselves when we look into social media. And that kind of dips into how our whole entire thing with Thriving Tides is that if you take care of yourself first, your business will come next, right? And you can't create a successful business without putting yourself first. I honestly wholeheartedly believe it. And if you take care of yourself, success will follow. Now, there are so many other tips. I've seen a bunch of people share a bunch of different graphics that kind of talk about other things to do, and there's actually a lot, especially when it comes to like your personal. But I did want to talk one-on-one as entrepreneurs, just because again, I know how difficult it is, and they didn't obviously touch upon that on the documentary because they had to, you know, do the other information bits. But I honestly do think that we can be more mindful on our social media, and not only will it benefit us, but it actually will benefit our business in the long run. Because I know I personally suffer a lot of burnout when it comes to, okay, I need to create content and I need to make it perfect. And if you take the time to, say, batch content, plan everything out, take the time away from social media, you don't compare yourself as much, and in all, you just feel a little bit happier. The documentary was also a little bit weird for me, just because I did think it was kind of weird how all these people were interviewing and they're saying how bad social media is, but of course this is after the fact that they've made all this money, and I kind of question it a little bit. And again, I don't think social media is bad at all, and I think the way that they were talking in the documentary, they made it seem like it was this really, really bad thing, and don't go on it at all. But I think we just need to be, again, more mindful. If you're gonna share an article, make sure to actually read the full article and also see if it's real, so fact check things as well. But again, that's going back into the personal side of social media. But even for your business, it's also important, because if you're maintaining a brand, you kind of want to make sure that you have a consistent messaging. And if you're sharing content that is not factual and someone checks it, then it's automatically putting an association with your brand of being in the mindset of making up lies, which is never a good thing to have on your brand. But I digress. I could literally make this whole entire video go on for so much longer, and if you guys want, I could do a part 2 as well, bring it into like the personal side of social media. But I just kind of wanted to quickly make a short little video of what the strategies I'm personally doing myself and what I have noticed since I watched that documentary like 3 weeks ago, what I've been doing that has helped, and I hope it really does help you too. So in conclusion, social media is kind of that one thing that I often struggle with. I sometimes honestly wonder if perhaps I wouldn't have as much anxiety and depression if social media wasn't existent. But the reality of the matter is, it's here. It's not going anywhere, and especially as business owners, we have to do it. But I do think But I do think having a personal strategy and a little guideline that you do for yourself to kind of balance and make sure that you maintain a mindfulness when it comes to social media and yourself and your business, that you can actually make social media more beneficial to yourself without hurting your mental health in the long run. And of course, I want to pass it off to you guys. I would love to know your strategies that you have implemented, especially if you have watched the documentary and you've kind of started to pull back a little bit. And yeah, I want to know if you do any of the strategies, and if you do, how it worked. If you have any other questions, I would love to create a conversation about this. And I think that's one thing that we definitely need to have more of, is a conversation, and an open conversation to not only our peers, but our children, our mothers, fathers, family, coworkers, everyone, about social media, to kind of, you know, continue this conversation further than just a documentary on Netflix. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and yeah, please subscribe. This is a newer channel and we really would love to have you as part of our subscribers. And if you haven't already, please check out the Thriving Tides podcast. It also helps us out greatly if you subscribe to our podcast as well, because it makes our numbers look really good. And yeah, if you guys have any other ideas, anything you guys would love to see from us, we're always open ears. And yeah, so take care, everyone, and remember, don't fight the rip currents.